Myanmar, also known as Burma, is dying. It's been dying for over 4 years now since a brutal civil war began tearing the country apart, and it's hard to imagine this coming to an end anytime soon. There are just too many groups fighting for too many different reasons. There are militias, warlords, ethnic armies, and then there's the military regime that seized power in a coup in early 2021 when they overthrew the democratically elected government. And on top of all this instability, there are millions of stateless Rohingya people who've faced centuries of persecution and are currently living under inhumane conditions. Some are calling this modern-day apartheid in Southeast Asia. So here's why Myanmar is dying. Myanmar is located in a strategic area between India, Bangladesh, Thailand, and China. But despite its location, it remains one of the most isolated countries in the world. They have a population of around 54 million people, with the largest ethnic group being the Burmese at 31%, followed by the second largest group, the Karenni, at 7%. Then we have the Rohingya, who make up about 5% of the population. But the regime considers them illegal immigrants from Bangladesh and denies them citizenship. This means that the Rohingya cannot travel freely within Myanmar, attend school, or even access basic healthcare services. As of now, there are over 1 million Rohingya refugees in neighboring Bangladesh, while another million or so remain trapped inside Myanmar, living under the threat of violence. The Rohingya people have faced decades of oppression in Myanmar, formerly known as Burma, and have been denied citizenship since 1982. This has left them vulnerable to human rights abuses and without access to basic services such as education, healthcare, and employment opportunities. Despite this, they have cultural and historical ties to the region and have resisted forced deportation attempts. In recent years, the situation has escalated with a military crackdown in 2016 that resulted in thousands of deaths and the destruction of hundreds of villages. This violence has been condemned by the international community as ethnic cleansing and has led to accusations of genocide and war crimes against the Myanmar military. But before we go into the current crisis, let's take a look back at how Myanmar became the way it is today. After gaining independence from Dutch colonial rule in 1945, Myanmar was quickly plunged into chaos. There was no single ethnic group that dominated the country, so power struggles were inevitable. To make matters worse, neighboring countries had their own designs on Myanmar's vast resources. Britain, which ruled much of Southeast Asia at the time, wanted to maintain its influence in the region. China sought to expand its sphere of influence, while the United States was concerned about the spread of communism. All of this foreign interference only exacerbated tensions within Myanmar and made it impossible for the country to find a stable path forward. The military regime in Myanmar has been in power for over 50 years, ruling the country with an iron fist and suppressing any dissent. One of their most brutal crackdowns was in 1988, when they opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing hundreds. This led to a nationwide uprising against the regime, but it was eventually crushed. Yet, despite all this, the military regime has been able to maintain its grip on power for so long because of two main factors. First, they have a strong base of support among the ethnic Burman majority, who see the military as a necessary evil to maintain stability. Second, the international community has been largely ineffective in holding the regime accountable for its abuses. In fact, some countries, such as Russia and China, have actually supported the military regime, providing them with weapons and economic aid. This support has only emboldened the regime to continue its abuses with impunity. In recent years, however, the situation has begun to change. The so-called Arab Spring uprisings in neighboring countries like Thailand and the Philippines have inspired many young people in Myanmar to demand democracy and human rights. At the same time, social media has played a major role in organizing opposition to the regime. Despite the risks, people have been using Facebook and other platforms to share information and mobilize protests. This has led to a new wave of activism and civil disobedience, which has put the regime on the defensive. The military regime has responded to these protests with even more crackdowns, arresting and torturing opposition leaders and ordinary citizens alike. However, this has only served to strengthen the resolve of the protesters who are determined to fight for their rights. The situation is still very volatile, and it's unclear what the outcome will be. But one thing is for sure: the days of military rule in Myanmar are numbered. The military regime's brutality has been well documented, with reports of extrajudicial killings, torture, and rape. One of the most egregious examples of this was the 2017 crackdown on the Rohingya Muslim minority. The army launched a brutal campaign of violence against the Rohingya, burning their villages and killing thousands. The regime has also been accused of war crimes and genocide, but has denied these charges. The international community has condemned the regime's actions and imposed sanctions, but these have had little effect. The regime continues to hold power, and the people of Myanmar continue to suffer. Myanmar has been described as the world's fastest-growing crisis, with violence and instability gripping the country and causing immense suffering for its people. The situation is complex and has been years in the making. Let's take a closer look at the roots of the conflict. Myanmar has a long history of ethnic and religious tensions. For decades, the military regime has ruled the country with an iron fist, oppressing its citizens and fueling the flames of discontent. The Rohingya people have been particularly targeted, facing persecution and violence at the hands of the regime and Buddhist extremists. As the situation has deteriorated, armed insurgencies have sprung up across the country, with ethnic armies and militias taking up arms against the regime. This has created a climate of fear and insecurity, with civilians caught in the crossfire. Adding to the complexity of the situation is the involvement of external actors. Neighboring countries like Thailand and China have interests in Myanmar's vast natural resources and have supported the regime in its efforts to maintain control. This has only served to entrench the regime and make it less accountable to the suffering of its people. The international community has condemned the regime's actions and imposed sanctions, but these have had limited impact. As the crisis has spiraled, the people of Myanmar have become increasingly desperate. Humanitarian aid organizations have struggled to provide assistance, and the country's economy has been devastated. The situation is dire, and the need for a peaceful resolution is urgent. Without meaningful progress towards democracy and human rights, the cycle of violence and instability is likely to continue. The people of Myanmar deserve a better future, and it is essential that the international community supports their struggle for peace and justice. Despite the gravity of the situation, there is reason to be cautiously optimistic. The people of Myanmar have shown incredible resilience and determination in the face of adversity. They have courageously taken to the streets to demand democracy and human rights, and their voices are being heard. The international community has also taken steps to hold the regime accountable, and there is growing pressure for meaningful change. While the path to democracy and stability is likely to be long and challenging, the people of Myanmar have demonstrated that they are willing to fight for a better future. With continued support from the international community, there is hope that Myanmar can emerge from this crisis as a free and democratic nation. So there you have it, a brief overview of the complex situation in Myanmar. I know it can be hard to keep up with global politics, especially when it seems like every country has their own unique set of challenges and conflicts. But I hope this video gave you some insight into what's going on in Myanmar and why it's considered to be dying. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And, as always, thank you for watching.